Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dari Live. And happy Friday. I'm really excited to talk about today's topic because it's something I get questions about a pretty good amount. And I'm also shifting my business, and I just love to help CEOs and business owners, entrepreneurs really work on their personal brands and get that out there. So, a question I get often is, do people even care? Like, how do I strike a balance between business and authenticity on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you decide to show up? But I'm going to talk about a few Instagram things here specifically. Um, so, yeah, let's get started. So, as a CEO or entrepreneur, why should you even bother to work on your personal brand or post for yourself on social media? And there are several reasons why. The first one being that it really builds brand equity with your customers, stakeholders, um, clients, employees. It builds that relationship. People nowadays are more connected to brands, companies. We want to know who the people behind the brand are, and that influences purchasing decisions. If you've noticed, brands like Bombas, for each pair of socks you buy, they donate one. So when there's a cause behind it, or we really kind of fall in love with the personalities behind a brand, it makes us more likely to purchase from a brand. There's more of a connection there. Of course, there's legacy brands like Coca-Cola that don't really need to do that. But again, they've been building up this brand for a very long time. I think nowadays, if you're just starting out, it's really beneficial to work on that personal brand, because another reason is that people buy more from people than they do from companies. And so if you have a personal brand, especially as an entrepreneur, you're probably going to get higher conversion rates on your accounts as opposed to your brand accounts. But there is also a way to balance both, but I will get into that later on. The last reason is, you are building that connection with your stakeholders and your employees. So there's more of an opportunity for collaboration, more of an opportunity to build relationships, which is really important as a CEO of a company, but also as an entrepreneur. So, one example I have of that is I am working with a CEO, and she is a CEO of an association. And was a little hesitant about posting online. And so we started with using something she was already doing, which was going to conferences. And we used that opportunity to post ahead of the conference, just letting people know that she was going to be there, what she was going to talk about, and things like that. And with that post, that led to her being able to connect with people who didn't realize she was going to be going, but they saw this post on her LinkedIn account and they reached out, and they were able to set up meetings, and she was able to build relationships that way. The second thing that we did was post during the conference. So that's the second. And the third is to post after the conference. So she was able to snap some photos with people that she got to connect with. And what that did for her was, one, more visibility on LinkedIn because these people shared the post that they were in. Not only that, but it continued the conversation beyond the conference. So she was able to, again, continue conversations and land business opportunities because of that. Right. So that's why it's important to use social media as a tool to build relationships, to get your name out there. Okay. And an example for entrepreneurs, again, people just want to support your brand. So if you are talking about how passionate you are, something that's coming up with your brand, you can get people really excited, because the energy that comes from an entrepreneur when they're really excited about what they're doing is unmatched, right? So if you can get people on board to believe in you, your product, your mission, that just translates so much better. You can do that with a brand, of course, but there's just something really special about someone really talking about what their passion is, what they believe in, that it's just, again, it's, you can't duplicate it from a brand perspective. It's just something that comes innately from the human. And there's nothing that replaces that. So one more thing, or one more perk to why you should use social media as a CEO or entrepreneur, thought leader, is because you get to showcase your expertise. And building a personal brand is so important. Why is that? Well, we don't like to think about this part, but you might not be at you might not be at the same company forever. You might be looking for other opportunities. So, building up that personal brand really can set you apart as an expert. People get to see how you think. They get to see your thought process, your what you know, how you approach business. They get a little bit of an inside view of that, and if you align with values, things like that. So that might be an extra perk for someone to hire you, to reach out to you. And yeah, so again, we don't like to think of, okay, what if I leave this company? But that might be something that you do down the line. And then you have your social profiles to point back to, or at least you can use your social profiles to further your career in that sense. And as an entrepreneur, you might not always have that one business, right? A lot of us start brands or businesses and we're able to sell them, or you just don't want to do it anymore and you want to move on. And so if you've built up a good personal brand, people that really believe in you, not just your product, but you as a person, and that want to follow your journey or that you inspire, those people are going to stick with you through whatever projects you put together. You already have like a little built-in audience of people that believe in you, trust you, and want to see what you're doing. So that's why it's important to build a personal brand that way, and why you should be using social media as a CEO or entrepreneur. So to recap, the reasons are: you can build brand equity, not just with customers, but you can humanize the company, build relationships with your stakeholders, clients, employees. You can expect a little bit of higher conversion rates in a message that comes from a person as opposed to a brand. And you get to showcase your expertise and really build your personal brand and use that to your advantage, whether that's within your career or the next entrepreneurship opportunity that you have. So, to the main point of why you're here, the balance. Because you can have an account that is just business and it's just strictly you and just talking about business, or just you as an entrepreneur. But again, people are craving a little bit more depth than that. And just talking about business almost isn't enough. Like, we want to get to know you more. People are smarter, right? It's not just a facade of you're just a business person. Like, no, we know you like to chill out on the weekend. We know that you actually have a thought process behind how you do things, how you run your company, why you became an entrepreneur, um, how you gained insight, and now you can give us tips as a thought leader, right? So, um, what are the three main things that you need to do to strike that balance? Well, first of all, ultimately, the three things that you need to do is ultimately you're going to decide what you feel comfortable with sharing. And that's a big one because not all of us want to be out here sharing everything all the time. And you do not need to. I'm not saying you need to go out there and share everything you do all the time, but you're just adding a little bit of personal flair to your business accounts, because that's what's going to make you stand out. It's how we make friends, right? Like, I like to eat food. That's changed a little bit. I have celiac, so now it's like, oh, I like dairy and gluten-free food, or I have to eat that stuff. So there's a new community for me to dive into. And so I put that, I do talk about that. That's a personal tidbit, but it helps me connect with other entrepreneurs who might also be dealing with this. It just adds another layer to you. So you have to decide with what you actually feel comfortable sharing. And remember that you don't have to share everything, because that can get a little annoying, or that's where the waters can get a little muddy. So where I would start is really just figuring that part out. And then you need to define your personal point of view. And this is so important because, again, your thought process, how you handle business, how you solve issues, um, how you're going to speak to people and connect with your audience, it all has to be from your personal point of view. So there are going to be things that are kind of basic, right? Like, to be on social media, you need to post. But for me, I know that I truly to the core of my being do not believe that you need to show up every single day on social media. That's a unique point of view. I do think your business should have a little bit of a personal touch. That's a unique point of view. So, what is your unique point of view? That might not come up for you right away. It might be something that you have to sort of develop and think about, but it's definitely, I don't want you regurgitating the same things everybody else is doing because then you just sound like everybody else and there's no reason for anyone to think that you're as innovative as you probably are. And then the last thing you want to figure out or think about is what are the goals of your social media accounts? This might look different for an CEO and a little bit different for an entrepreneur, but you need to figure out, is this, are you using this as a tool to connect with customers? Are you using this as a tool to connect with other people in your business? And you can have different goals at different times, but you need to figure out what you want to do with your account before you start pumping out content. And the reason why I telling you to do this or I'm suggesting that you do this is because that's going to make the entire process down the line so much easier. You're going to be able to figure out what you want to talk about, what angle you want to take on either breaking news in your industry or things that are happening. What you talk about, what you don't talk about. Once you define what your goals are, it just makes all the different pieces fall into place much easier for you, much less overwhelm. Um, it just gets things going in the right direction. So I like to figure those things out. So those are the first three things that are going to help you figure out how to strike that balance between your personal and your business posts. Then here are some extra tips for you. I want you to, and this is going to be hard, especially for our CEOs out there, might be a little difficult. Don't focus or don't get hyper fixated on super polished content, right? We're used to seeing, especially with corporate clients, videos that are super polished, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't want your personal pieces to look so polished. Or it's not that I don't want them to, it's more like sometimes we get caught up in, oh my gosh, this doesn't look perfect. And then we never put it out there. Therefore, nothing happens. And that's not what we want. If you want traction, you have to kind of put that aside. And honestly, people are used to not as fancy content. I mean, this video is not shot on, I'm not in a Hollywood production studio. I'm in my home with a, Logitech camera. And but I'm getting my message out to you. And to me, that's all that matters is if your message is getting out. Also, people do like seeing phone footage. It just feels more authentic. It feels like I'm in the moment with you instead of, oh, this is like a very serious message that this person's putting out there. The next is when it comes to sprinkling in your more personal posts. I am not telling you to post your lunch every day. I'm I think a better way to approach it, especially for CEOs, is to be very intentional. Not just CEOs, but entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Everyone needs to be very intentional. But um, your personal post can be centered around your point of view, right? So maybe something happened in your industry and you can speak to that. Maybe you took away a lesson from something that happened to you at work or in the office. Um, you might relate it to a hobby that you have. Maybe you had a great idea while you were running. So, how do you use those moments that happen in everyday life and put them through the lens of being a CEO, put them through the lens of your company, put them through the lens of your product? That's something to think about. And then, yeah, so be intentional. Your personal or authentic posts don't have to, like I said, your posts require more depth than here's what I had for lunch. That's not what we're looking for here. We're looking to really just approach this from how can I give you a piece of how I think, how, what I do outside of work. You're giving people a glimpse into that. But if you're not quite ready for that yet, the think pieces, through lessons that happen in everyday life, how you can add everyday life into your posts about business. That's a good way to sprinkle in authenticity into your posts. And then, of course, behind the scenes, this can go for CEOs and also entrepreneurs. Um, what inspires you every day to get up and do the work that you do? Um, what's driving you to have certain initiatives in your company? What's driving you to entrepreneurs? What's your process? What's your product? What was the passion behind it? What was the inspiration behind it? What's inspiring you this week? There's so many different ways to bring that authenticity to your Instagram account and have that balance where it's not just business stuff all the time, but we really get a glimpse into you and who you are. And here's a bonus for Instagram specifically. Um, really take advantage of using Instagram stories, right? So you can have an account that's mostly brand related. Your feed is mostly brand, but then you have sprinkles of the founder. Um, but then you can really go into stories, and that's where you can get super personal. That's where you can take us behind the scenes. That's where you can say, "This is how I'm developing this new product that's coming out." Because stories are so much more laid back. They disappear in 24 hours. There's more, I feel like there's more flexibility in that, where within the feed is more like, here's a finished thing. Or even if it's not completely finished, it's more touched up than me in the moment grabbing my phone and just being excited and showing you what's happening. So that's another way to ease into authenticity and posting more personal projects, or more personal posts onto your account. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I know that was jam packed. Again, I don't like to fluff. So I don't want to take too much of your time. If you have any questions, I'm going to give you a little bit to post them. And if you need help with any part of this, I do have an audio series that helps you go through your goals and really hone in on what you should be concentrating on next in your business. And I do have a boot camp. It's a 3-day video course. It's called Powerful Profitable Posting on Instagram. And it takes you through basically how to define your unique point of view, how to find the topics that you want to talk about, and then how to turn that into content that you can use in your feed to give that authentic touch to your Instagram account. So those are both up on my site if you're looking for help with that. And of course, I love working one on one with CEOs and entrepreneurs and really expand their social media presences and beyond. I mean, there's so much you can do now that's the social media has not always been the end all beyond of business, right? Businesses existed before, there's businesses that exist after, and there's no amount of social media that can fix if you have a bad product or bad processes behind the scenes. But there are so many other ways to market your business, and I would love to figure that out with you. All right, I don't see any questions coming in. So I am going to end it here, but thank you for joining me. Happy Friday. There was a ton of info, but keep in mind your personal brand is really important. So I do urge everyone to work on their personal brands. There's just so many benefits to it. Does it take a little bit getting used to? Absolutely. Of course, it's stuff that I dealt with myself and stuff that I hope clients move through and kind of shake off the, I don't want to say the egg, but they shaking off that the overwhelm and the hesitancy that comes with posting online. There is a way to balance authenticity and your business on Instagram, on LinkedIn. And again, finding that balance is not as difficult as it may seem. Just try it, go for it. You're going to have to experiment. But yeah, if you have any questions, again, my DMs are open, and I will see you guys on the next Coffee with Dari Live. Thank you so much. Bye.